What's going on, everyone? So, the Los Angeles Lakers should stay away from Nikola Vucevic. Now, you might be saying, Tyler, weren't you one of the guys that were talking about trading for Nikola Vucevic at the trade deadline? And yes, you're right, I was. But that was before the Luka trade, right? Nikola Vucevic made a lot of sense when you had Anthony Davis, who would have been the defensive anchor, and the guy slaughtered alongside him that could have been your rim protector, right? So, getting a guy like a Nikola Vucevic that is as skilled as he is offensively, that can make plays out of the post, that can spread the floor, that is an excellent rebounder, right? And a guy that go be a 20 and 10 guy. That would have had a lot of value slotted in at the 5 alongside Anthony Davis, who could have been more of that free range defender and been able to help on the weak side. Nikola Vucevic, not really a great defender, not really ever really been known as like a defender guy, but he's a guy that, like, if you funnel into him, right, he can clean it up, right? So the idea was like, okay, if you can get him, get, one or two perimeter defensive guys, right? So that way you have the perimeter defense and the guys that can kind of funnel into Vu. He's a guy that can kind of clean it up. And then you have Anthony Davis as the weak side help to kind of clean up whatever you need, right? I thought it made some sense, right? And look, I even made videos where I said it wasn't my favorite option, but it was something that I would have been fine with. It gives you some flexibility. He's going into a contract year. Well, things have changed because, again, you no longer have Anthony Davis. Now your defensive anchor at that spot is LeBron James, and he was excellent in it, particularly in the playoffs, but he's not a guy that's going to be helping on the weak side, on the blind side, just blocking everything and being able to clean up, the guards, and just, you're not going to be able to do that. Right? So he doesn't make sense for the Lakers anymore. Now, obviously, any center is better than no center. So you could make the argument if that's the only option, then you do it. But at that point, I'd rather just like bring in like a Jericho Sims or something like that, or take a flyer. Like, can you convince Andre Drummond, like, hey, dude, because at least he can get you a block and a steal and rebound. He's a better offensive rebounder. Like, I think it's one of those things where, the previous regime, the previous construct of this team, it made a lot of sense. The current construct of this team doesn't make as much sense, right? Things change all the time. And there's already kind of reports that have came out about like, hey, Lakers, should look to go and target Nikola Vucevic. And, hey, the Lakers may look and touch base again because they were interested in him. There was conversation and dialogue about, Nikola Vucevic this past trade deadline, and the Lakers, had conversations about it. At the trade deadline, it was kind of like, this kind of break glass case of emergency after the Luka trade, but also we didn't know that they were doing the Mark Williams trade. And then the Mark Williams trade came through and it was like, oh, okay, so all those other reports were probably just nonsense, right? But Lakers have had interest in Vucevic for years now. So the reporting is just kind of piggybacking off of, the previous years of like, hey, Nikola Vucevic. And now he's going in a contract year, so it'd give you some flexibility. And again, you could argue like him as far as like being, just like that rebounder, that stretch big, like there is some sense to it. But again, Lakers don't just need interior size. They need guys that can protect the rim and defend at the rim, right? You need guys that can hold their own at the rim, not just somebody that's just big just to be big, right? You need guys that can come in and at least hold up some resistance. Again, if you kind of funnel him into it, then fine. Yeah, sure. But you need a guy that can talk about this all the time, right? What the Lakers need is they need a guy that can rebound, be a lob threat, defend at the rim, and ideally defend in space, right? And the pick and roll, right? But usually if a guy can defend in space, they can usually defend in the pick and roll, right? So you're kind of the biggest needs. Vucevic doesn't do any of those things but rebound, right? Like literally, that's the only thing he does. Now, he does give you the offensive versatility and the shooting and all those things, right? But again, unless the Lakers were able to just get some like elite defensive wings, I just don't think that that's a guy that makes a lot of sense as your primary, deterrent at the rim. Right? Now, he is making $21.4 million next year, and it is expiring, so you could look at that and go, well, he'd be on an expiring contract. It's a guy that, is a 20 and 10 guy, right? He doesn't need to be reliant on Luka, but I've said this before. I don't think the Lakers need necessarily a skilled big, right? I would love it. I'm not against it, right? I talked about how I would love to have kind of the 3 layers of bigs, right? Have that skill big, have that just floor runner, just high flyer big, and then have the more physical interior imposing big. I talk about, the 2020 roster all the time, right? You look at that roster. You had Anthony Davis, who was the skilled big. You had Dwight Howard, that was the big, physical, strong, enforcing big. And then you had JaVale McGee, which was the high flying, floor running big. If you could replicate that, obviously you're kind of be hard to get that high level, but if you could replicate that to a degree, a Mark, or we'll stick with Vucevic because he's that. Like if you get a Vucevic and then a Clint Capella and then keep a Jackson Hayes, then you kind of have you have that skill big in Vucevic, right? You have, the big physical offensive rebounding, lob threat big in Clint Capella. And then you have the, floor running, high flyer, just push the pace type of big in a Jackson Hayes, right? So you just have better balance. In that regards, I would like that. But I don't think it's necessary. Just because you would like something like that and it'd be nice to have, doesn't mean that it's entirely necessary. It's kind of like the cherry on top of it. Again, Lakers need rebounding, shot blocking, and athleticism at the center position, ideally, right? But let's go over the numbers real quick because numbers are important. What is he producing? Now, he started off the season like in fuego. Like he was having literally a career year for like 3/4 of the season. And then he really came crashing down. Now, was part of that because he just kind of hit a wall and he's on a decline? Some people might look at it that way. Was part of it because, or was it because, Chicago decided, hey, we're tanking for the bottom? Was part of it just like, he got hurt and had some injuries and Chicago kind of set him out a little longer. And then they also traded and got some other bigs. So they were kind of experimenting with some stuff, right? Could it be a combination of all of it, right? Where maybe it is part decline, part this, part that. It's very possible. But he ended up finishing the season 73 games, which is a good thing about him, right? Best ability is availability. He's a guy that's available, right? 73 games, 82 games, 76 games, 73 games. Started in 72 of 73, 31.2 minutes per game, 14.2 field goal attempts per game, shot 53% from the floor, 40% from three-point range. He was shooting like 46% at like, the midway point of the season, 44%, something like that. He was shooting like lights out from three-point range. 58.7% on 10 attempts from two-point range, had an EFG of 59.2%, free throw shooting 80.5% on 2 attempts, 10 rebounds, including 2.4 offensive, 3.5 assists, a steal, a block, that's me rounding it up, and 18.5 points per game. So again, a guy that gets you, right around 20 and 10, right? There's no doubt he's skilled. There's no doubt he's the office player. Honestly, I'd rather just at that point sign Brook Lopez because he kind of gives you all the same stuff that Vucevic would give you, but you wouldn't have to trade for him. You could just sign him, right? And he's not going to make 20 plus million. So, and I want the Lakers to stay away from Brook Lopez, period. Unless Brook Lopez is willing to take a minimum to come off the bench, then sure, right? Like get a vet minimum guy. But anyway, as always, this is a discussion. Pass a question on you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. What do you think? Feel what your thoughts. Agree with me, disagree with me, kind of mixed in the middle. How do you feel? Whatever your thoughts are. I'd love to hear it either way. So let me know down in the comments below. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me out. Helps me enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. Not subscribe to the channel, hit that subscribe button. Turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one. Thank you.